It's Friday. It's Diversity Community Newscast for February 26, 2021 by host Harriet, Tinka and myself, Rayyah Sempala. Sponsored by Rayyah Plumbing and Heating. Here are the headlines for this week. Welcome to Women Elegance. Elle Au Féminin magazine is here by AJFAS. Mother of Black History Month celebration in Canada. Dr. Jean Augustin inspires kids with children's books. Edmonton Police Service invites people from diverse communities to serve on its new Chief Community Council. Diversity TV brings you to, after this newscast, our last Black History Month Zoom panel on systemic racism, with guests from police, school, politicians, and the community. Now the news in detail with Harriet, Tinka. Harriet, is Edmonton Police Service still looking for people? Tell us more about what they're doing in the community.
No, absolutely. They are definitely looking for people. The Edmonton Police Service, EPS, invites people from diverse communities to serve on its new Chief Community Council as it redesigns its community engagement strategy to be more inclusive. As a recommendation from the EPS commitment to action, initiative, and other engagement efforts, the EPS is looking for community members with experience in marginalization, discrimination, and interested in being part of change to guide the EPS in addressing issues with vulnerable communities. The deadline is February 28, 2021. For more information, please go to www.edmontonpolice.ca/ccc, or you can send your application to ccc@edmontonpolice.ca.
So we're at the end of Black History Month, and we know that there's some celebrations going on within Edmonton and Calgary. So Harriet, tell us a little bit more about what's happening in both Edmonton and Calgary for Black History Month.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm going to start off with Edmonton events and share just what Edmonton is doing. Saturday, February 27, 2021, 12 noon, by Africans and African Descendants, Friendship Club of St. Albert online. Saturday, February 6 to 27, AJFAS Black History Month events on their website, www.ajfas.ca. In Fort Saskatchewan, Fort Saskatchewan Multicultural Association will be hosting Black History educational workshops at schools in Fort Saskatchewan, Sherwood Park, and Ardrossan, February 10 to February 26. And this is a private event. Also, they're hosting virtual videos highlighting the meaning of Black History Month, what it means to African, Caribbean Canadians who have been above the challenges and have accomplished, highlighting their valuable contributions to the many fields such as politics, education, sports, arts, and culture. This will be shown throughout the month of February on their Facebook page. On February 27, Afro Quiz will welcome 40 contestants from 4 age categories covering elementary through high school. Themed Health and the Black Community 2021, and it will take an online format. Youth participants and spectators of all ages can register at www.cash.org/AfroQuiz.
I think it's very important, to talk about the Black community and healthcare together, because those are two things that are really important to our community. So, are there any events for Black History Month that are happening specifically in Calgary that we would want our viewers to know about?
Okay, absolutely. Here are the events that are happening in Calgary. Raising Hope in a Pandemic, February 15 and 27 at 1 p.m. online. Ethnic Festival of Arts and Culture, 26 to 27 of February from 6 to 8 p.m. daily, and that's also online. Black History Month Desire to Make a Difference, Community Responsibility and Integrity, February 27 from 6 to 8 p.m. Africa Day, Arts and Culture, Society in partnership with Pan-African Music Society of Nigeria for an online music concert, March 13, 2021, from 6 to 8 p.m. We also have some Black offers that are happening also here in Edmonton,
Wow.
and I'm going to share those with you. Yes, SAS Marketing Agency is offering help to the Black community as part of Black History Month 2021. If you are a Black-owned business in Edmonton and area in need of graphic design work to promote your business during these difficult times, you can get a free offer from SAS. To request this free one-time design promotional marketing material before the end of February, please go to their website. Now, before we go to more Black History Month stories, we will take a quick commercial break.
We have so many things happening in this Black History Month. And one more thing is the magazine that's new in town, which is Elle Au Féminin by AJFAS. Harriet, can you tell us a little bit more about this magazine?
Oh, you bet. You really pronounced that very well. Now, on February 20, 2021, AJFAS celebrates 25 vibrant Black women from the Francophone community in Alberta as part of Black History Month, launching the arrival of the new feminine Black French magazine, Elle Au Féminin. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, you said it correctly.
Wonderful. Now, women were drawn from all walks of life: healthcare, media, community development, entrepreneurs, education, and many, many more.
Yeah, and if people want a list of people who are on there are 25 women, and this list will be on their website if you want to, if anyone wants to see that list of women.
You bet. It's definitely worth having a look because these 25 women are so inspiring. They've done so much, and I am also inspired. I'll be getting that magazine, that's for sure.
On to fashion, Harriet. We know we're going to be suiting up for men's fashion of the week.
Men.
So
Ooh, exciting.
What do we have this month for the men in fashion?
It's all about color. It's all about beauty. Now, there's color, there's beauty in the horizon as spring nears and Black History Month winds up. A colorful, eye-catching a colorful, eye-catching men tie set will not be a bad idea for your man or a friend. A handcrafted African wax print or Angara, a high-quality set of the bow tie and pocket square to complement an outfit. The set comes elegantly wrapped with a bow, which makes it the perfect gift for the Black History Month. Now, for more information, please go to kynapparel.ca.
Yes, thank you. And it's very important that we promote fashion, particularly fashion that comes from, the black community, as we have such beautiful colors, such vibrant colors.
You bet. Do you have a friend that you're going to buy the set? You could
I
buy.
don't know. Are you going to buy some for someone, Harriet?
No, I have lots of friends, lots of male friends who I think they would love this bow tie. Just saying, if you're my friend, you might get a gift. Just be warned.
So I guess you're going to surprise.
Yes, I'm not going to name anyone.
Okay. Well, it's important that we celebrate fashion, and especially in our community, which we have so many vibrant colors and so many beautiful prints. But we also have, for this week, we're celebrating Bukola Ogimbi for our diversity profile of the week. And can you tell us a little bit more of why we are celebrating her this week?
Oh, absolutely. I'm super excited. Now, she has a nickname called Bookie. Yes, that's a great nickname. So Buki was a pharmacist in Nigeria for 5 years before moving here in Canada in 2009. By 2012, she became a pharmacist too in Canada after proving her worth in the pharmacy exams. However, Buki didn't stop there. She kept going. She's unstoppable. She opened Hampton's Pharmacy in October 2019 on 5603 199th Street in southwest of Edmonton, where she provides pharmacy services such as dispensing medication, counseling people on their medication review, and work with other healthcare professionals to provide the very best care. Also, a prescribing pharmacist, the hardworking Bookie squeezed time in between clients to talk to Diversity TV reporter Tabitha for our Black History Month special. Take a listen.
I was a pharmacist from Nigeria. I practiced for like 5 years before I came to Canada, and then I wrote all the professional exams, and then I'm here. I've been practicing as a pharmacist in Canada for over 8 years.
Now we go back to coronavirus and what's happening right now with regards to public health. Can you tell us a bit what the situation is right now with the coronavirus?
Oh, you bet. We are always getting updates on coronavirus. Now, Alberta Health has reported scams where victims are asked to provide personal information, send money, or buy gift cards to secure a COVID-19 vaccine early. If you've received such a call, have you received a call like that?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you've received such a call, contact Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre or your local police.
That's scary with the fraud going on. And so let's get out of Edmonton and Calgary. Let's go to the world now. International news. So what do we have for the viewers today for international news, Harriet?
Well, international, there's always so much going on. Now, we'll start off with South Africa. South Africa becomes the very first country in Africa to roll out COVID-19 vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine was rolled out after pausing an initial rollout of the AstraZeneca's vaccine, which was apparently not effective against the COVID-19 strain dominant in the country. Tanzania, whose president was saying they do not need COVID-19, and even passed a law to prevent people from publicly talking about the COVID-19 situation, is now experiencing a rise in case number, with senior government members dying from the virus. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Former Interior Minister of ruling party Mohamed Bassom
Yeah, but
has been declared as Niger's new president by Niger's Electoral Commission.
back now to local news. We have food now. So what are we cooking this week? What is the dish of the week for this week, Harriet?
This week, oh my goodness, I am hungry just thinking about the following dish. This week, Crazy Jerk restaurant in Calgary, led by Chef Joshua, prepares for us ackee and saltfish, popularly known as Jamaica's national dish. It is made with a ackee fruit. Are you familiar with that fruit?
No, I think I haven't heard of it. But I think it's a lot of people eat it though.
Yes. Yeah, I tried it one time and which it's imported from the region, from the African nation of Ghana in Africa by slaves. You can try the delicious ackee and saltfish at Crazy Jerk, located on 1715 52th Street Southeast in Calgary.
We've
So this is the oil, that's plain cooking oil. Put it too much. And over here,
How are you?
I have the onion, tomato, hot pepper, and yellow pepper and red pepper. So what I do, I put some black pepper, not too much, over it. And I put a little bit of seasoned salt. So that's okay. Then I stir everything up. Get it together. Okay. So I bring it over here. And the oil is very hot. Let's see, so I just
Where can people get this?
can get at No Frills and anywhere in the store in town. You can get it. There's different brand, but I like this brand. And then I put it in here, and I put some hot water. Run it over some hot water, and then from the hot water, so pour it over here. And I stir it a bit.
What is ackee made of?
It made from a fruit
Okay.
tree from Jamaica.
So it's ready for.
It's ready to eat, ready to serve.
That sounds so delicious, Harriet, and I hope a lot of people in Calgary can go and check out this Jamaican restaurant.
You bet. Even us Edmontonians will take a field trip and
Yeah.
go try it out.
So we have a lot of announcements this week. Can you tell us a little bit of the announcement that the Alberta government has made?
Oh, you bet. Now, employers can now apply for their staff, Albertan frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic to receive a one-time payment in recognition of their hard work and sacrifice. This critical worker benefit is a joint federal-provincial program that will see $465 million go to approximately 380,000 Albertan public and private sector workers in the form of 1,200 cash payments. For detailed information on eligibility and how to apply, please go to their website, alberta.ca/workers-benefit. Businesses can now apply for Alberta provincial government support during this COVID-19 pandemic. The Small and Medium Enterprise Relaunch Grant offers financial assistance to Alberta businesses, cooperatives, and non-profit organizations that were ordered to close or curtail operations and that experience a 30% revenue loss as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Learn more on the Alberta government website. The National Black Coalition of Canada, NBCC, Edmonton Chapter Black History Month publication is now out. The 44 Years 2021 Culture Magazine can be accessed on their website. Edmonton will host a very important diversity conference the summer of July 6 to 10 at 9 p.m., inviting big names like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. III. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard. It's going to be very important, especially with people like him coming.
Yes, I spoke to organizer Patrick Arthur last week, actually, and he's here to tell us more. For tickets, please go to the website www.diversityconference.ca.
I'm here representing Center for Intellectual Excellence here in Edmonton. I serve as the executive director for the firm. And what Center for Intellectual Excellence stands for is we try to do programs on equity, diversity, and inclusion education. And that is one of the reasons why we are having our very first World Diversity in Leadership Conference here in Edmonton at the Edmonton Convention Center from July 6th to the 10th. I am excited because for the very first time, we have the King himself, Dr. Martin Luther King III, coming to Edmonton for the first time. So I'm excited. We have other great speakers also coming in. We have the Her Excellency, Dr. Jewel Taylor, the Vice President from Liberia, also coming in. We have Dr. Wendy Cookie, who is the Director of Diversity Institute here in Canada, also represented. Molly Thomas from CTV also moderating. We have Carol Ann Divani from Global News. And then we have Ben Doche-Malo, who is the United Nations Chief Editor for United Nations News, also moderating. So we are really excited, and we really want to make this event a memorable one for the people of Edmonton. So it's an exciting news, and it's happening July 6th to the 10th.
Business for sale. Are you interested in taking over a business? Are you interested?
Well, I'm not right now, but I guess there's someone out there who is interested.
You bet. If they're interested, let's share some information on that. Women's clothing boutique for sale. Start making money right away. Ready to go and can be moved to anywhere. Very profitable, no experience needed. No experience required, rather. Needed training and support provided. Good deal, including inventory, suppliers, and so on. If you're interested, please call this number, 780-709-0965. Now let's to Toronto.
Yeah. So what's happening in Toronto, Harriet?
Well, in Toronto, Ontario, the highly anticipated children's book is now available on Amazon under Miss Bonita and Friends, and the case of the girl who had to be perfectly perfect. This book is written by Lisa Laouz, the creator of Miss Bonita and Friends books and web series. The book is co-written by Suzanne Coy, a Jamaican-born African-Canadian actor, producer, and talent manager. In celebration of the 25th anniversary of Black History Month, together they partnered with the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustin, the first Black Canadian woman elected to the House of Commons, with the objectives of back with the objectives of the book to inspire kids across the world. We invited Dr. Augustin and Lisa, author of Miss Bonita, to inspire you as well with this story. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have two wonderful guests today who are going to be talking to us about the wonderful book that they've written together and everything else that they're doing in the community with to inspire especially young women who really go through a lot of self-doubt, feeling not worthy. So they're going to share that with us using the book that they have written. So we have Lisa is here and Dr. Jean Augustin. Welcome, ladies. So tell us about this great book, Miss Bonita.
I'll let Lisa go ahead and talk about the book itself. I'm very proud of this book, especially as it has come out on the 25th anniversary of Black History Month in Canada. So Lisa, talk about the book because we're all very, very proud of this book.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're really excited. Miss Bonita and Friends is a group of magical characters who go on adventures to help kids around the world solve their problems. Problems like that they're experiencing emotional challenges. It could be any type of loss. It could be moving to a new city, being bullied, things like that. And so in this particular book, the case of the girl who had to be perfectly perfect, the Miss Bonita and Friends go on an adventure to help little Jean, who lives on a magical island somewhere, solve her challenge that she's facing in the story. So there's a lot of layers and themes in the book because all the kids who are helping little Jean are also having their own issues. And so they're all really dealing with different types of fears and anxieties and worries, and they're helping each other. And but it's lots of fun, and we're very excited because it gives Dr. Augustin an opportunity to really connect with children in a very unique way, and that's very relevant, and it's timeless.
Miss Bonita, how old is she, this little girl?
Yeah, she's always turning 17. I don't know how long she's been always turning 17. It's not, she's like, they don't really have age. So I know she's not as old as Meme the Mystique. That's another character in the book who I think is thousands of years old. But yeah, I'm not sure, but I know she's turning 17.
I think the book has an appeal to young people, no matter the age. It's a book that can be read to the little ones. The illustrations in the book are just fabulous and fantastic that little people would connect with. As you read the story, of course, you show them the pictures. And it is also for the adults, and it's also for educators. It's also for therapists and people who are, who are working with young people, counseling them and showing them the humanity that there is in each and every one of us, and that we all, can make mistakes. We all can do whatever. And at the same time, we're all worthy and capable of love.
And the reason I actually asked about the age, because I know the things that you go through are basically can affect anybody at any age. It can be kids who are in kindergarten to seniors. So it really does not discriminate which age these things can be passed on. So I'm really excited about this book that you've written. And I'm always all about empowering, especially young girls. So I'll be the first one to get this book. So please do tell us where we can get this book and where it's available.
Right now, it's available on Amazon globally. So it's in Canada. You can just get onto Amazon and you'll see the book there. You can type in Miss Bonita and Friends or The Case of the Girl Who Had to Be Perfectly Perfect. And you can also get it in the States. So that's where it's
wonderful.
available right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We just
I'm
launched
excited.
it like 2 weeks ago. Yes. And we'll get you a book for sure.
I know that all our listeners have listened to what you're saying, and I think everybody will definitely go get it. I know I will definitely go and get it. So thank you so much for sharing this wonderful book. Once again, tell us the name of the book, so we can remember it.
It's Miss Bonita and Friends present The Case of the Girl Who Had to Be Perfectly Perfect. So we invite you on this adventure and to join us.
It's lovely, and we're very proud of the content. We're very proud of the illustrations, but most importantly, proud of the message. Because as you know, we're in challenging times, and we need encouragement, and we need upliftment, and we also need to ensure that our children are nurtured, and that as parents and teachers, we want to make sure that we assist young people to make really good decisions.
Wonderful. I think your message is valid and loud and clear. So thank you so much for being part of our conversation. We're excited, and I know we are going to get the book. So make sure you get the book. It's on Amazon.
So Harriet, it appears you've been hiding some news from us. So Empowered Me Inc., presented by you, our darling host, Harriet Tinka, has launched an anti-bullying campaign for 2021, Don't Make Me Cry. So Harriet, tell us a little bit more about this campaign. Why did you start it, and why is this so important to you?
Oh, thank you. I'm excited about this event. It's going to be happening on Sunday. And what the event is about being kind to one another. Now, the conversations have been ongoing about anti-bullying, and that's why I'm wearing pink today, just as a representation of all of us to just continue being kind to one another. So this event is basically, it's open to the youth, the parents. Mostly I've been targeting young girls and who have been bullied, and I have a video as well that I put together. So it's all about being kind to one another, and it'll be a round table talk. So anybody who wants to be part of it, it is a free event. So, but you do have to register because it's actually only limited to about 20 people, and it's already half full. So if you want to be part of the conversation, please do register, and we'll have those conversations.
Yes, and hopefully we can give our viewers a little bit of a snippet of this round table.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, it'll be definitely something that we all have to really, it's an ongoing conversation. Being kind is free.
Yes.
So let's all continue to be kind.
Well, you heard what Harriet said. Being kind is free.
So let's get it done. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
So this event is just one of the many conversations that we're going to have during this year as we encourage more youth to join in the discussion. Please share your story as well to make a difference. And we will have experts participate in these conversations as well. Harriet, how can youths get involved in this program that you're...
Oh, you bet. What they can definitely go to my website and register as well. It's actually on Eventbrite. So if you just Google "Don't Make Me Cry," it just shows up. It's very easy, and it's very easy to log on and register. So hopefully we'll see some of you there.
Yes, and that's a very important thing.
Hi, Aaliyah. Have you ever been bullied?
Yeah,
Do you want to tell me about it?
yeah. When I was 7, a bully took my jacket, threw my jacket in the toilet. It was winter and I didn't have a jacket. Stop bullying and don't make me cry.
Before we go to our panel, we want to thank you for watching Diversity TV Community Newscast from Harriet Tinka and myself, Rayyah Sempala. We hope to see you next week, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and
as well as Instagram. And also we do have a website, and it is www.diversityplus.ca.
We now begin our Systemic Racism panel, Diversity TV in the Community. Our last Black History Month Zoom panel is on systemic racism, a hot one coming to you this Friday, February 26, 2021 at noon. We invited representatives from the cities of Edmonton, Calgary, Government of Alberta, the official Alberta opposition, Edmonton and Calgary Police Services, school boards, and some community leaders to share what they plan to do to address systemic racism. Visible minorities make up about 30% of Canada, but yet hold less than 1% of the positions on corporate boards. The numbers are as depressing as you can imagine at the management levels in government, academia, law enforcement, and every field that you can imagine. Last week, students in some schools in Edmonton formed groups to fight Black supremacy. Yes, I mean Black supremacy. This signifies how toxic the situation has become. We clearly have a problem, especially the minorities in Alberta and beyond. It's time to start a conversation on systemic racism in Alberta. There's no better time to have this conversation than during Black History Month by inviting those who pass legislation, those who enforce legislation, those who inform our future leaders, and the communities who live these experiences. We know this matters to you and your organization as it does to our communities. As such, it will be a pleasure to have you watch this as we discuss how to mold an inclusive Alberta for everyone. Here are our guests. Kemo Manzri, Community Leader. Giselle General, Politician and Community Leader. Trisha Estabrooks, Chair of Edmonton Public School Board Trustee. MLA David Shepherd. Matthew Chong from Edmonton Police Service. Mitch Flaman from Edmonton Police Service. Marilyn Dennis, Board Chair of Calgary Board of Education.
We're going to begin our newscast dialogue today, our panel of conversation. So I want to thank everybody for coming and taking time to come and talk about this topic that I said earlier that does not get old. It's something that's ongoing. So today we are hoping to discuss some action pieces that we all have, some action pieces that we've all been working on or will be working on or plan to work on. So I invite all of you to please share what you're doing in the community. I am here with my co-host, Rayyah, and she's going to be facilitating this conversation. So welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome everyone and happy Black History Month. This conversation is important to be had as, racism is something that touches a lot of our community, and it's something that we really need to try and find solutions to. So I guess we're going to start with the community leaders for this conversation. So we'll start with Kemo. Is Kemo here?
First of all, thanks for putting this together. I'm presently the chair of the Africa Center. Racism, systemic racism is something that is dear to me, and I have been talking and advocating for it for quite some time. Recently, I even actually did a presentation at City Council in terms of how we can systemic racism, and I think we need to. We've been talking about a lot of time about diversity, inclusion, all these terms and terminology has not worked for years and years. And I think we need to actually face the real definition of terms and talking about anti-Black racism or racism in general. And that's one way I think by us actually accepting and understanding the term, we will start to understand what it really means, the root cause of racism. And I think it's incumbent of all of us to understand what it means. And from that perspective, we will be able to know how we can dismantle racism, where it starts and how it has impacted people and how it continues to impact a lot of people who are the other end of what racism is. So I will briefly stop there, and then as the conversation continues, I'll continue to talk about some of these important aspects and how we can actually address this problem.
Thank you, Kemo. Now we're going to go to the schools. We're going to go to the schools and the representatives who are here on behalf of the schools. So we have Trisha Eastbrooks, who is the chair of Edmonton Public School Board trustee. Trisha, could you give us some of your thoughts on this issue?
And thanks. It's always good to be welcomed back. You, Diversity TV, you play such a critical role in helping this conversation, because I think conversation's so important. That being said, action. You're asking me a question about action, and I agree with you completely. And some of the recent incidents, within Edmonton Public Schools, it was really hard to watch, quite honestly. And I actually, my heart really goes out to students of color, Black students in our division who, let's be honest, quite frankly, were harmed by some of the alliances. I don't even want to repeat the name of it, but I want to start by just sort of addressing the harm that no doubt has caused many of our students and our families. And so some of the things that we're doing, I do want to share that, and I appreciate the opportunity to share that, but I also know that we need to continue to listen and we need to continue to learn. At Edmonton Public Schools for the last 2 years, we've been working on what used to be called the multiculturalism education policy. There was a lot wrong with that policy, starting with the name, quite frankly. And so now we've just put it out to community, and we've worked really closely with community. I think we have a representative actually from the Africa Center who helped guide us in some of that work. So thank you for that. And so the new policy is anti-racism and equity policy. We're out for community feedback on that. And I'm happy to provide the link to the community feedback survey. We're going to have meetings. This is a policy that's been a long time in the making. The other thing we're doing, and I'm really proud to be the first school division in this province to start collecting race-based data. And the last time I was on Diversity TV, we talked about that. And the only reason we're talking about this and doing it is because community said, actually community told us a decade ago or longer, hey, we need to start doing this. So we're listening. It's long overdue, but I'm excited. Like, there's really great potential around collecting the data. A key piece of this is working with community, doing it in the right way. I have a sense of urgency because we have been asked for so long to start collecting it. But then I kind of have to temper that urgency that I feel, and I know a lot of community feel and parents feel, because we got to do it the right way. We have to go slow. We have to do it meaningfully. We've written to the Ministry of Education to encourage other school divisions to do the same. And I see David Shepherd here. And so the other piece we've been really active on, because we are in the middle of a new curriculum for Alberta students. It's gone on a long time, but David, you gave a great speech probably about a year ago now in the legislature talking about the history, or the importance rather, of Black Canadians and Black Albertans and their contributions being reflected in our curriculum. And so we sort of went with that and have been writing letters to the Minister of Education and sharing the need for that new curriculum as that's being revised. So those are some of the things we're doing. Lots of different moving parts. And I guess to sum up, when I see and read about the news that recently impacted Edmonton Public, the march that just happened in our city last weekend, it's like, yeah, we've got all these moving pieces and these bits and pieces, but we got to do more. And so that's where I looked at community. What can we do? How can we continue along this path, right? So, because it's a path, it's a journey. I'm committed to helping guide the school division as best as I can as chair right now, to continue to listen and learn.
Yes, thank you, Tricia. And we're going to go to Marilyn Dennis, who is the board chair of the Calgary Board of Education. Then we'll go to Giselle, who is a community leader and a politician. Then we'll give David a chance to respond to Tricia. Hello, Marilyn.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. I know that initially my schedule wasn't going to allow me to be here tonight, but earlier this afternoon things shifted. So I was glad that you were able to include me, even though I RSVP'd at the last minute. So thank you so much for allowing me to participate. Really happy to be here. And really happy to talk about some of the work that the CBE is doing to start combating systemic racism in our own system. For a number of years, we've had policies in place around, safe, welcoming learning environments. We've worked with our staff and promoted things, like the Pink T-shirt day, right? Against bullying, to make our schools as safe and welcoming as possible for everyone. But what we're doing right now is we're taking a more head-on approach, to the issue of equity and racism. And one of the exciting things we're doing right now is we have a committee that has been put together, and it's called CBE Cares. And it is the CBE, it's a collaboration on anti-racism and equity support. That's what the CARES stands for. And it is a group of educators in our system, students, myself and another trustee sit on this committee. Our chief superintendent and some of our senior staff also sit on this committee. And it really is about listening. And so we're taking the time to listen to not only educators, but other staff in our system and people from every role, whether it be a support role like an education assistant, a facility operator, school principals, teachers, every role that we have in the system has been invited to participate. And we're taking a lot of time just to listen to people's experiences. So hearing those firsthand stories are really, really important. I think that for many of us, we can come up with anecdotal evidence or, have an idea of what it's been like for people. But to have those stories being told by the people who have been impacted themselves has been really powerful. And so there's a core committee, but then we've also now started reaching out and have invited our parent community to participate. And so we've had listening sessions where leaders in the system have taken time to listen to groups of parents and what their experiences have been and stories from their families and what their families' experiences have been in the CBE and in society in general, really. And so we are, these are, lengthy sessions that take place, a number of people attend. But then we're broken into small groups and we're able to sort of, dig deep into some of those stories. And at the end of all this process, once we've collected all of this, collected the stories, we have a, facilitator that's working with us, of course. And all of this feedback will be compiled together and will come in the form of a report to our administration later in the spring. And then the Board of Trustees will hopefully see something of that work, by the end of the school year. And so what the work of CBE Cares is going to do is it's going to inform things like professional development for our staff moving forward. It's going to inform policy. So the Board of Trustees is looking forward to seeing what is in the report and are there ways that we can actually adjust policy within our system to be able to address some of the concerns that have been raised. So really, really excited about that work. It's big, it's really big work. We know that the adjustment won't necessarily be fast, but we know it's important. And so we will take a look and see what steps we can take soon and what steps will take a little more time. But really excited about that work and really proud of the work of CPE Cares.
Thank you, Marilyn. That's a long list of things that you're doing. That's exciting. It's really great to hear some action that everybody's doing. So thank you for sharing that. I know that David has a bit of a time constraint, so I don't want to make you miss your next commitment. So I'm going to have, before Giselle, I'll get David to really, to share what his action pieces are with this big topic we're discussing today.
Thank you so much, Harriet. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. With the Alberta NDP caucus, we've been working on this for some time. During our time in government, of course, we had consultations across the province of Alberta to talk with racialized communities and hear their concerns about how we could combat racism. And we put forward our Taking Action on Racism plan, which included pieces like Tricia talked about, updating the Alberta curriculum, which was work we'd started and we were continuing on to include, of course, Alberta's Black history, but of course, also the commitment we had as a government to include training and education about the history of residential schools in Alberta's and the Indigenous people who live in Alberta, their history here, not only in the educational curriculum, but that training be provided to all staff within the public service. And we've continued on that work since. I had the honor of speaking at the Fight for Equity rally at the legislature last year and made the commitment that we as a caucus and our leader, Rachel Notley, would meet with the leaders in the Black community and other racialized communities across the province. That turned into a consultation series we're doing now called Your Future, Your Voice, and where we've been holding a series of consultations. So far, we've held them on healthcare, on education, and on public safety in the justice system. We have 3 more coming up on economic participation, on community and social supports, and on democratic participation, where we're inviting folks from all communities, from racialized communities, to come and talk with us about specific policies to address systemic racism within the areas that are under the control of the provincial government. And so far, what we've seen from that are some very concrete and tangible things that sort of go across a lot of these areas. Like Tricia talked about, the collection of race-based data. We've heard very clearly from community that is essential, because if we do not measure what is happening, we cannot fix the problems or identify where they are. And it's incredibly important to empower community organizations as well to identify where needs are and be able to target their work more powerfully. So we are going to be working on that, and I'm actually working on a private members bill towards that effect. There's issues around accessibility. So we're hearing from people very clearly that it is more challenging often for racialized communities to access government services or supports. There can be barriers of language. There can be barriers of location that they're not able to get to services, and also recognizing that for communities, sometimes there are cultural challenges or other issues which keep them from going to particular places. They may not be comfortable going to a hospital or to the doctor's office to access mental health supports. So these things have to be made more available in the community. So we've also been developing policies that we want to bring forward around training and education. We've heard very clearly that there are challenges around cultural competency and cultural sensitivity, recognizing that different cultural groups and different racialized communities process things different ways, express things different ways, and look for help in different ways. So in particular, we know Indigenous communities, they have different ways of knowing. They have different treatments that need to be considered, different ways that maybe some of these issues like mental health or healthcare need to be approached. So it's incredibly important that in the training that we provide to professionals in these different areas, that they learn about other cultures and different perspectives and how things are held. And within that also then that we are including specific anti-bias and anti-racism training, cultural diversity, so that people understand that perhaps what you say, it doesn't matter sometimes what you intend when you say something. What matters is how it's heard and how it's experienced by the individual from the racialized community. And lastly, the area of representation. Because I think one of the reasons we have all of these challenges within these systems, and indeed often end up enacting policies that have racism or bias baked into them, is because we do not have representation from these communities at the table where these decisions are being made. So we know that we need to see more racialized folks, as teachers, as board members in the public school system, as trustees, all the way up to the top and in the public service. We know this is true in medicine as well. We need to have greater representation at all levels, more doctors, more surgeons, more people who understand these communities, and indeed in all of these other areas that we cover too. So these are policies that we're actively working on. We're going to have more consultations starting in April, and then looking forward to releasing a summary of the policies that we're going to be working to advocate on, and of course would implement should we have a chance in the future to form government. So important work, and that's what we've been doing as the Alberta NDP caucus.
That's another long list of action pieces that you're doing, and it's really good to listen to you and listen to Tricia and listen to Marilyn and Kemi, and it all sounds like you're all collaborating. You all have solutions, and it's good to see that you all have action pieces that you're talking about. So I know our listeners will be excited to listen to all you have proposed and what you're doing. So Giselle, did you also want to weigh in the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting when I got the invitation, I'm like, who or which organization am I representing? Because I wear different hats. Am I here on behalf of the Alberta Filipino Journal? Am I here on behalf of me? Am I here on behalf of the Community League movement? Am I here on behalf of the government movement I'm a part of? So I wasn't sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend a few action items that I think is worth exploring by different individuals. So the first one, and it's actually an action item for us, like the fellow migrants and fellow members of the BIPOC community. Very simple, tangible, actionable. And it is volunteer for your neighborhood's community league. This is very tangible and actionable because volunteering in your neighborhood's community league gives you that exposure with what's happening in the neighborhood. It's an actual government board, it's an actual not-for-profit with bylaws and procedures, and it's a stepping stone to get initial experience with how to participate in a board. The barrier to entry is actually really low because they're just eager to have you. As long as you live in the neighborhood, you will likely be a board member. And for me, I think I was 26 years old, a landed immigrant, that's my first experience with boards. And we actually have a board meeting today at 7 p.m. I've been there for 5 years. With that as part of my resume, I was able to apply for a government board because it's the challenging chicken and egg situation. Do you have board experience so that we can consider you as an applicant for this board? So by having the community league board member experience in your resume, it will be easier to apply for government boards and not-for-profit boards. In all these boards that I'm a part of, including still my current community league, I'm a minority for more than one category. I'm one of the landed immigrants. I'm the one who's ESL. I'm the one who doesn't have kids. So, I talk about other things other than the soccer program and toddler programming because it's important, right? Residents consist of people from all walks of life. And because of my foundational experiences, a board member, now I'm in the government advisory board, where I'm a minority for more than one category again. Landed immigrant, ESL, sexual assault survivor, who can't drive. So transportation policy is something I'm really passionate contributing about. And then in another not-for-profit board I'm a part of, which is actually the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues, now I'm pushing them to really think about the institution of the community league system from an inclusive lens, because it is the 100th anniversary of the community league system, so it means that this system was built at a different time and place. I'm pushing them to find ways to communicate to newcomers what a community league is, because people have different definitions of community cohesiveness in urban or rural villages and how people relate to each other. People sometimes think that the community league hall is a government building. So we need to tell people, this is something for neighborhoods, by neighbors, volunteer-based. So that is the one actionable item for now that I would like to encourage. And for anyone who has questions on how it feels like to volunteer for a community lead board, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. I think we have some representatives from Edmonton Police Service. I think it's Mitch and Matthew. Yes, we'll go to Matthew first.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Matthew Chung. I'm an equity and inclusion design consultant within the Edmonton Police Service. I just want to say happy Black History Month and thank you so much for including us on this conversation. There are a lot of things on the go right now within the EPS to tackle the big question of how do we address systemic racism. And a lot of this involves a collaborative approach with the community here. We've begun, we've begun a number of initiatives just collaborating with the number of Edmonton's underserved communities within the city here. And we're hoping to essentially, I'm going to start again here. I'm getting ahead of myself and I apologize about that. We have a two-pronged approach where essentially we're using our resources to connect with the external community, to engage with them and use that to inform how we're tackling issues that we're seeing internally. So something that a lot of you may be familiar with is something called the commitment to action. That is just one aspect that we're doing to essentially help us inform of how we can improve our services within the Edmonton Police Service, as well as addressing some of the systemic issues that we see as demonstrated in policies and procedures here. Some of the other issues that we're soliciting feedback within the community also involves the Niso-Kamakwin Council, as well as the Chiefs Community Council that was recently launched, where we're actively seeking members of the Edmonton community to partner up with the Edmonton Police Service and find ways that we can essentially tackle these issues that have gone on for far too long here. Essentially, a lot of those initiatives will inform our processes internally and essentially help us dictate how we can approach some educational initiatives here. So more recently, we've begun essentially providing a service-wide opportunity for our membership to engage in understanding what unconscious bias is and why the implications are so important for those working in law enforcement. As well, we're also looking at how we can implement a gender-based analysis lens within our processes, whether we're speaking about members within our leadership and those who hold the capacity for decision-making. We're also looking at how we can use that intersectional lens on more of a frontline basis for someone who is working directly with the community, not necessarily in the areas of policy, but actually addressing calls that we have from people needing assistance here. How can they ensure that they're fully recognizing the experiences of racialized individuals and how that might differ from other community members too? I'll let Mitch kind of jump into other initiatives that we're doing within the service here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. So I am a member of the Edmonton Police Service, and I always say this, it's hard to imagine. I've been there for 25 years with the service, so I've seen a lot of changes over that period of time. As Matthew was saying, Matthew and I work together with what's called the Equity and Inclusion Branch. So that incorporates workplace harassment with our area, community relations, Indigenous relations, and Matthew's new position as a strategic advisor. As Matthew said, we've kind of taken the approach of trying to tackle discrimination across the board and to have that create a more tolerant service, and because that will affect how we provide service to the people that require our help. And as you said, we did bias awareness training. We also have something that Matthew didn't mention, but he's very involved in it with our SOGI Council. So it's a sexual orientation council. And again, we're really looking at, and although this is not directly associated to maybe racism, it's associative tolerance, which I think is directly impacts racist and prejudicial beliefs. And what we're really trying to do with our new councils now, and Matthew mentioned Niso-Kamakwin Council, which is Indigenous-led council, and our Chiefs Community Council, which is going to be from essentially members of our community that are from underserved communities, is we're trying to give them a voice within the policies and procedures of the Edmonton Police Service. So we're not asking them to take on the heavy lifting of forming those policies, but when we have policies or consider doing a program or consider doing some kind of approach to the community, as opposed to doing it and then asking the community members what you think of it, we're trying to get them involved at the grassroots level and in the creation of that program. So another thing that Matthew's working on right now is an inclusive language guide. So this is a really good example. So it's giving our members the ability to have respectful terms and discourse with a very fast changing world. So instead of creating that inclusive language guide and then throwing it out to community members saying, what do you think? Matthew's in the process of forming essentially a framework of that, putting it out to community members who are affected and saying, hey, help me create this. So when we have a final program or a document, it's been co-created with affected members of the community. So we're trying to be much more transparent in our approach to creating our programs. Another thing that I think is important to mention is we've instituted something called peer intervention training as well. So often police are criticized, or what you'll see on the news has to do with use of force and how police officers interact in a physical sense with members of Edmonton. Use of force gets a lot of headlines. It actually makes up a very small amount of police interactions. And I think what we should really be focusing on, not only use of force, but the more insidious things, is how we talk to each other. And our peer intervention training is designed to have coworkers call each other out when they go down a path of intolerance or discrimination in their language or their approaches to people. And it's just having those skills and the expectation from a leadership committee as to, hey, putting an arm on Matthew's shoulder saying, let's back off and let's talk about how we're approaching this person, this call, this incident, and have a respectful discourse. Before I came to this position I'm in now, I was within our recruit selection unit as the staff sergeant there for a number of years. And some of the things we've done there is we had an equity review done within our recruiting and selection processes, as well as our training process by an external party, to really take a look at, okay, what are we doing? How are we attracting people? How are we ensuring diversity of applicants within the Edmonton Police Service? And we don't just mean diversity we mean diversity of thought, we mean diversity of experience, of course, but it's also looking at, if you just select a bunch of diverse people, but you put them into a system that kind of grinds out that freedom of thought out of them, then it doesn't really amount to what we're trying to get at. So we really want to look at how are we training people and what are our expectations of them. I've shared this with Franklin within Diversity Magazine before, but I'm quite happy to say within our last 333 applicants that we've hired to the Edmonton Police Service, over 50% of those have come from diverse communities, which are underrepresented within the Edmonton Police Service. And I want to make sure you understand what I mean with underrepresented, because underrepresented means visible minorities, Indigenous, sexual minorities, and women, because all of those groups combined are not represented proportionally within our service. So that was our focus there. So it wasn't just simply on visible minorities, it was on everything within that underrepresented category. So that's some of the things that we're working on that are ongoing right now. Matthew can probably mention a half dozen others. I don't want to take up all the time, because if there's questions about what our approach is, then Matthew and I are willing to answer them. But that's a lot of the programs that we're working on right now within the Edmonton Police Service.
Thank you, Mitch. And we'll now go to Kemo, who I know didn't really speak a lot on the topic. Kemo?
Yes, and thanks everyone. And it's so interesting to see people talking about different things that they're doing. And I think Giselle, you run it as a community leader. These are some of the things that I have been doing personally and actually with the Africa Center, trying to engage politicians and leaders who have the authority to make the changes. I recently joined the Inclusive Education for Parent and Community Advisory Council at Public School, which I am part of, to advocate not only for people with disability, but immigrant, Black people with disability and language challenges, because this is how we can actually make change. If we don't get involved, we don't get those changes to happen. We need to get involved as people of minority. And at the same time, understand also systemic racism is systems that was built years and years ago. Some of the people who are actually white people that we sometimes accuse for certain things came into it by just because of who their color is or who their race is. So understanding that, it's also for them to take that time to understand those processes and change those systems. So we as and the minority, Black people, people of color, need to be engaged in educating people in how this is affecting us. We need to talk, we need to come out, and definitely we need to also engage in a way that it is not a combative way. Rallying and demonstrating, yes, it's important, but we need actions. We've been talking about this for years and years, how it's affecting. We need actions, but how can we make those actions? Is by us actually getting involved, as David said. We need to get into boards, we need to get into politics, we need to get into those areas that matters to affect change.
Now, David, I know you have to go, so if you can weigh in and see what some of the community leaders have spoken about, and also as well as the administration leaders have spoken. So what is the one that actually stands out for you that you feel like you can build on what they have said? I know there's lots, so it's probably maybe an unfair question, but go ahead.
There's a couple things I would note here. First of all, it is wonderful to hear of all the work that is being done by so many different community organizations or in so many different government and public services. And what I really am happy to hear is the focus on community engagement and empowering community to make these changes. I think we have had too much top-down approach to these issues in the past. And we need to be listening to community, centering their voices, and empowering them to shape the steps we are going to take. So that's wonderful to hear that there is that level of engagement and inclusion. I also really appreciate what Giselle had to say and what Kimo was just talking about as well, about the opportunity for people from community to also get engaged in these places. And indeed, I would encourage folks from racialized communities to look for opportunities to serve in their community, whether that be a community league or government boards and agencies, but also recognizing that we have to do work from our side as public leaders and as the folks who I guess have some control over that to help provide those opportunities. As Giselle said, it can be challenging for folks in the community to get these opportunities if they do not have experience. And that means for us as public officials and folks who have control over some of these systems, we have to work to provide more opportunity. We have to go out and not just expect people to come in, invite them to come in and give them training, give them support to be able to participate in these systems and be voices at the table. So it's a two-way collaboration, I guess. And it's wonderful to hear that folks from both sides are working hard to build that engagement and that empowerment.
The other thing that I wanted to also to point out is, I know EPS, what I've noticed, you had quite a list of things that you discussed. It's very clear that in the community, when the police is doing great, it's not always showcased, but when something goes wrong, they're always showcased. So it's really great that you have so many action steps that you've taken and you continue to do that, especially the one that you mentioned at the last about hiring more visible minority in the group. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in the conversation?
So I'll first start off, if that's all right. So I think that Mitch did a great job explaining some of the initiatives that we've really done to really incorporate the representation of visible minorities within the service. I think that there's also a piece that comes down to retention of these members. I feel like it's important to obviously introduce intentional measures for inclusion, but if they just kind of die off and it doesn't, and if we don't support our members throughout their careers, unfortunately, these efforts will go to waste. There's a few things that we're actively working on. The first thing was a direct recommendation from our chief, Dale McPhee. He's essentially tasked a bunch of hand-selected sworn members throughout the service to essentially establish something called the EDI Leadership Committee. And it has kind of two main objectives here. The first biggest objective is how can we increase the representation of underserved communities within our leadership? Obviously, that's a loaded question, and that's something that's going to take time. And so what we're doing in the meantime is also identifying what are some of the barriers and pitfalls that are prohibiting people from even getting to these places here. So I had mentioned retention is one of those pieces. In addition to support just the greater organization in general, we also have the formation of multiple employee resource groups. There are two in particular. One is actively well established, and that's the 2S LGBTQ plus employee resource group, where essentially it's a safe space for our queer identifying individuals within the service to gather together as a support group to support one another. But it's also leveraged as almost a way to amplify the voices of our marginalized folks within the service and bring it to the attention of our leadership. There are so many different instances that are impacting our marginalized people within the service here. And it's so important that we're paying careful attention to identifying what those issues are and recognizing that we can't use a blanket approach to essentially combat a lot of these issues that we're seeing here. More recently, following kind of the success of our 2S LGBTQ plus employee resource group, we're actually in the very early stages of creating a BIPOC employee resource group. And the intention is very similar, but we recognize that we have to do what we can as much as possible to pay attention to those specific issues that we're running into that are impacting specific communities within the Edmonton Police Service here. I think as much as possible, especially when we're talking about the concept of equity, if we're not intentional with how we essentially incorporate inclusion within our practices here, there are so many little pitfalls where it can fall apart. Mitch, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think that's good, Matthew. Mentioning the EDI committee is a really important step. And I think the final thing I'd say is that with whatever we do as a police service, it has to be very intentional. It's the time for talking with this particular chief is over. So his actions are very intentional. They're very direct. And he has laid down a framework. That's the expectation of the entire service. Talking and consultation is done. It's time to actually do things. We've consulted with people far too much. And if we continue to do it without action, it's really hollow. And that's the commitment that this chief has made going forward and with our membership to get on board.
Mitch and Matthew. We're going to go to the schools again to close off this panel. So we'll go to Tricia and then Marilyn.
Thanks. Listening to this conversation, which I've really appreciated and enjoyed. I think there's a momentum, right? And so I guess, how do we, and I say we as community leaders, as elected officials, as members of the police service, how do we keep that momentum going, right? And so, and I think there's an accountability piece here. Like Harriet, you were saying all together, there's 35 actions here. You're probably right. There probably is 35 actions or more. And that's fabulous. And the connections that we're all working together to complete those actions. But our public needs to hold us accountable on these actions, right? And so that's how we keep the momentum going, because you talk to racialized, marginalized folks, like this is a conversation that's been going on and on and on and on. So let's hope that this time there's momentum and there's action. And I really appreciate hearing the Edmonton Police Service and that idea of intentionality. I completely agree with you. We can have all the committees and the talking you want, but there comes a time for action, as you, Harriet, said at the beginning. So those are some of the thoughts I have going in my head. The other thing is I just see such a role for education, for public education in all of this. Like our kids, it sounds so cliched, but it's so, so true. Our kids are our future, right? And so creating, and Marilyn said it best, creating safe, welcoming, inclusive schools, that is the priority of our school divisions. And so we need to live up to that promise to our kids, to our families that entrust us every day with those little people. And so I do believe education, conversation is the way forward. And just, yeah, Giselle, great comments, like get involved totally. And, you know, I wish you all the luck in your city council run. It's such a good reminder that to encourage the voices of people to get involved, but then also, like, you know, I forget who said, maybe it was you, Chemo, like, the downloading of like, okay, so here's this great policy, what do you think? Like, just sort of throwing it out there. Like, again, it comes back to intentionality and involving community early on. And it sounds like we're all doing that, which is great. And I think keeps us accountable and helps keep that momentum going. And yeah, just to conclude, really always appreciate these open conversations. So thanks again.
All right, so I would say I would echo a lot of what Tricia has said. I was listening to everyone and just jotting down a few notes and just some of the phrases that I heard some of you use. And I think intentionality is massive. I do think I would agree that we have some momentum now, and we need to be very intentional about not letting that momentum die. So, you know, I feel confident in some of the things that CBE is doing around some of that. I think this CBE Cares Committee is very intentional. The work that's going to come out of that is going to be very influential, I think, in our system. And at the same time, too, I think it's also, I think some of our work too is going to be managing expectations, because some of this is not going to be fast. We know that these conversations in our broader communities have been happening for a long time. They are getting the attention they deserve now, which is going to help move things forward. But there is a societal shift that needs to happen too. And I do think, you know, we're in very interesting times, you know, not only, you know, in our province, but really in the world. And I think that there are these bigger discussions are happening and more people are becoming involved in them. And so, but there still is a lot of societal shift that needs to happen, and that's going to take some time. You know, I sort of look at it in terms of, you know, even just in terms of educators and the experience that educators have, you know, educators that are, you know, in the last few years of their career, as opposed to educators that are just starting, and the types of environments that they're walking into their schools is completely different. You know, the kind of language that is being used is, you know, is different. You know, the approach to learning is different. I have a daughter who's just finishing her education degree, and in university, she's taking classes on inclusion. I would venture to say that probably the teachers that I had when I was in school, probably they weren't teaching those things at university. But even in that respect, you know, we're going to have you know, educators coming with a different perspective, and in part because of what they've experienced in school themselves. So, and that's not to say that we don't have amazing teachers of every generation. We absolutely do. And teachers who walk into school every day and, you know, do their best work and respect every single student in their classroom. But I do think there will be a shift, and it's simply because, you know, we have people that have different lived experiences now coming into our classrooms and being seen as leaders in their classrooms. So I'm really optimistic around the role that education will continue to play in moving these conversations forward. And it is a really exciting time to be HFC of the biggest board in the province.
Thank you, Marilyn. And we'll go to Giselle before closing.
I do have another very specific, tangible recommendation, and it's something I need to work on. It's something that great initiatives like Diversity TV is actually working on, and that is the value of ethnic media. So now I'm changing my hat. I'm speaking on behalf of the Alberta Filipino Journal, where I am a columnist. One thing that is sometimes missing when it comes to ideas of educating or spreading awareness in the community is that people come to Canada at different ages and stages in life. I came here when I was 16. I only went to grade 12 and then went to university. So I had zero Black history because of what I learned back home. And then I went straight to university here and with a business degree. So I had very limited opportunities. So then I would go to my ethnic store and get the local ethnic paper and learn. And I think there's a lot of potential there to learn about what is happening with other communities. A really specific example, it's Indigenous focused, but I think it's a great illustration. Omni TV started their Filipino news broadcast just in September 2020. And 2 weeks ago, they shared a story of someone who is a 60 scoop survivor, but it was dubbed in Tagalog. So I think those opportunities to share content in different ways to reach different demographics. Because for me, my English is okay. I was lucky. I went to good schools back home, but not everyone is like that. Converting, translating, transcribing, making content accessible in many different ways is actually helpful for everybody. So I'm trying to save money for this because I know it's not cheap, but for virtual meetings, having captions at the bottom is helpful for people who are deaf, people who are not very confident with their English skills, or maybe with terrible internet, and they're like, am I hearing them correctly? I'm not sure, because as someone who speaks English as your second, third, fourth, or fifth language, even I still feel insecure about my English comprehension sometimes. So when it comes to conversations and sharing stories, reducing those barriers as much as possible, I think is really important. Maybe I should have my Coming to Canada story translated in French and Oromo and Arabic so that people can understand the story of Filipinos coming to Canada, as an example. So there's a lot of potential there, and tapping into and being mindful of the different languages that we use to communicate. Thank you.
Another perspective there. Thank you so much. And I had a lot of words being spoken today, a lot of action. I like accountability. I like intentional shifts. There's so many I could go on. And I know you all have all the different things that you've identified as far as action goes. So I'm wondering if any one of you would invite us to come and see what you're doing wherever you are. Just let us know. Anybody right now? Are you all good to go? Can we show up and of course, following COVID protocols? I see everybody shaking their heads. I see everybody That's shaking positive.
Yeah, you should totally check back in with us. And the final thing I would say too is, to pick up on what David Shepherd was saying around representation. Like, we're heading into a municipal election. Giselle's running for office. We need trustees. It's a great job. I'm going to take this opportunity to, spread the word about potentially considering a run for public school board trustee with your listeners. It's a great job, and I encourage, and we need more diverse voices, right? Different perspectives, different lived experiences at the table. We need to hear those.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here, and happy Black History Month to our viewers. And we hope to have more conversations like this that are diverse and really, pertain to what people are going through and the solutions that they need in a lot of minority communities. So thank you to everyone, and hopefully we can have more conversations like this.
It definitely gives us hope. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great conversation. Thank you so much.
Night.